Hi, everybody. Welcome. We're right at the top of the hour. We're so excited to have you here today for the annual, or not annual, monthly. We do them every year, but every month, learning series from the Urban and Community Forestry Society. Really happy to have you here today. We've got a great conversation, and we're excited that we've made this a little bit longer into a workshop style learning series where you can learn from one another when we go into breakout rooms towards the top of the hour. So that we have plenty of time to hear from our amazing speakers, I'm going to jump right in, and I'm going to start with a little bit more introduction about the Urban and Community Forestry Society. And if I didn't introduce myself, I'm Leslie Burkus, the Executive Director of UCFS. And we're so thankful to our partners at Bartlett Tree Experts for sponsoring this learning series. Together with Bartlett, we share the goal of raising the bar for urban forestry, and we thank them for their support of this and every single learning series that we put on. And overall, we thank all of our partners who help make this work possible, and especially our members. Our members who make this organization run. It is you that we are here for, and we so appreciate every single member that is here. If you are not a member, we really hope that you'll join when the time is right. So today we're just going to do some brief introductions to UCFS, and then we're going to hear from a really awesome panel of people from across the country. Walt from California, Jennifer from Ohio, Tom from Massachusetts, and Nick with Bartlett Tree, who also lives in the Illinois area. And together they are going to talk about RFPs, something that you guys are dealing with every single day, and helping you understand the elements of a clear and effective RFP, identifying and avoiding the common pitfalls. And towards the end, again, we're going to break into rooms and you can collaborate with one another. One of the panelists will be in each of the rooms, and you'll be able to ask questions of anything that you're dealing with when it comes to writing clear and effective RFPs. Then we'll end with some Q&A. And then finally, at the very end, we'll have the CEU credential form. If you're seeking ISA CEUs, we'll put that form in the chat and you'll be able to take in ISA CEUs at that point. So as we're getting started here, would love for you to drop your name in the chat and where you're from. And it's really great to connect with people from all across the world. Carla, I'm just noticing, I think there's some people in the lobby still.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
1 second. Let's see.
So as we're admitting those folks in from the lobby, again, drop your name in the chat and where you're from. This webinar is being recorded and we will post to our YouTube page when we're done. CEUs will be taken at the end and we will submit those on your behalf to ISA. And then you all are on mute and no video at this time, but when we go into the breakout rooms, we will allow video and your mic at that point. So who is the Urban and Community Forestry Society? If you're not familiar with us, we are the membership home to help people build their confidence, competence, and camaraderie of all the professionals who manage trees and forests to create and sustain more livable communities. Breaking that down even further, really, we're just the professional membership home for the people who make or support a daily tree care decision. If you decide who, what, where, when, or how a tree goes in the ground, we want you to be part of this membership society. You are who makes those big decisions. You're who making huge impacts for our community by planting trees and making our communities more livable. So if you are one of those people who are making those daily decisions, really hope that you're part of this membership society. Just like doctors, nurses, lawyers, engineers have a society, we get to have it as tree people as well. A few things that we all are able to offer for our members and our friends is our City Trees publication. We have an arborist exchange program. We have a mentorship program. Our annual conference is coming up in November. Registration is open for that now. Municipal Forestry Institute, the Premier Leadership Institute will open, applications will open in August. We're soon to launch a new accreditation program for your urban forestry program. We have these monthly learning series. We're a busy group over here, but it's all really focused on you, the professional who's making this stuff happen, and we want to be your support system. So if you haven't followed along with all that we're doing, check out our website and keep following along with us as we keep developing stuff. Next learning series coming up. Well, I have the June one here. You're here now. And then later next week is our next in our career compass is new job, now what? Especially focused on people just coming into the urban forestry career and they've landed that job. How do they have a successful partnership with their supervisor? How do they take in new information when everything seems new? That's what that next career compass is about. Our July learning series is from Tree Resilience, focused on cultivating safe communities and how you remove hazard trees, especially on private property. And then August learning series is Mapping Trees, all about the National Tree Canopy Assessment Tool. We'll put up the next learning series as we're ready to go, but make sure you sign up for those. So finally, if you are a member, thank you so much. We really, really appreciate you. We want to be your support system. You are the people making our communities more livable. If you're not a member, hope that you'll join when the time is right. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and I'm going to kick it over to Nick Martin.
Okay, thank you, Leslie. Let me share this and move this over here, if I can. There we go. All right. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you, Leslie. Appreciate everyone joining today. I'm Nick Martin. I'm Vice President of Bartlett Consulting with Bartlett Tree Experts. And like Leslie mentioned, she kicked off. I'm honored to be part of this expert panel today. I'll say I'm part of the panel, not the expert side. We'll leave that to the experts later on. But to discuss RFPs and contracts, again, kind of at the 101 level. Like Leslie mentioned, Bartlett, we're very honored to be able to partner with and help sponsor the learning series. So thank you, UCFS, and thank you, membership. So let's get started. So my role today is to kind of help set the stage and get everyone on the same page for the rest of the presentation and for our expert panel. So if you have any level of experience in this realm, RFPs and contracts, this is a very large realm, right? It can be very complex, very complicated, very unique, and a whole bunch of other things, right? So we will at least want to try to get everyone on the same page as much as we can, so you get a lot out of today and it's more impactful. So, but to start, we need to set the stage with some terminology. So obviously, there are numerous terms used when we're talking about how to engage or hire professionals, right? Request for proposal is one we see often. Request for qualifications. You have request for quotation. You have request for information. A solicitation to bid, invitation, solicitation to bid, an invitation to bid, call for proposals, expression of interest, and for all of our colleagues across the pond, you have a tender, right? So there's all kinds of terms that we see and that all of you use for these requests. And I wish I could tell you why different locations or organizations use specific ones, but I can't, right? So they're kind of all over the board and kind of decided on a kind of a more local level. But for today's conversation, what we want to do is consider all of these terms, which again, you may use, may not use, but we're going to consider them a contract or contracts, right? We are requesting professionals to submit information in order to enter into a contract with us, the organization, the municipality, to perform specified services, right? Whatever you need and are putting that request out for. But essentially, we're looking to put in place a contract with us and a professional. That's kind of the first stage setting we wanted to do, just in case people are using different terms. So what do we include in general in these requests for contract? Well, I kind of break them into two segments, kind of what you determine. So I would assume most of you that are on the call today, the webinar today, aspects that would go into these requests that you write or are more involved with or more responsible for. So this could obviously be the introduction and background, kind of where you're at to date, the why. So why is your organization going down this road? Your intended goals and outcomes, which are crucial to put in there because they should be varied and will differ based on what's going on. The scope of work, and we'll get to this a little bit later, but this is obviously very broad. But one thing to keep in mind here, based on some of my experience in reviewing these and looking at these, is this is a great area to make sure we're using updated industry material and references and language, right? Sometimes the industry moves faster than we want it to, and new terminology is introduced. And sometimes it's a little complicated. So people that may be helping you that are not as familiar with some of our industry language may kind of intermingle and mix some of the terminology, which from the professional side, maybe that's not quite accurate, right? So it's going to lead to questions. So that's a crucial area when we're putting those together. Budget and timeline. So budget is kind of a hit or miss one. You know, some RFPs, the budget may be included. That may be your standard practice. Other times it may not be. From the professional perspective, I like to see, you know, your anticipated or expected budget included, because to me, it makes the entire process more efficient, right? Okay, we know what you're looking for as far as an amount. We can tailor what can be provided to meet that, versus, you know, if you're not allowed to include budgets, whatever that may be, right? You get proposals for everything you asked for, and it is a massive range as far as proposed prices. So that's just my little tidbit on budget. Timeline is crucial. The proposal requirements are obviously very important as well, and the evaluation and award criteria. So I have our first asterisk here, and I have to be specific and unique, because again, reviewing some of these, and not to get into you know, the language too much, but these requests obviously should be specific to what you need and want, and tailored to you and your organization, right? Ask for information that's going to help you get the result that you want, and make sure that the information throughout the document actually relates to your situation and organization, right? We know some language may be used across multiple contracts, RFPs, that's fine. But sometimes some of those little changes aren't made, and you know, they may make it through into other ones. So making it as specific as possible, I think, helps everyone. So the other side, kind of the other aspect that I kind of look at it through my lens is we have what you are more responsible for, or maybe more involved with creating. Obviously, that will vary depending on where you're at. But there are other aspects of the request or the contract that would be outside of your control, right? So I would consider these the more standard, you know, kind of formal boilerplate template, whatever term you want to use. But those clauses or sections of the requests and the contracts, right? These are generally outside of your control. Again, different situations will vary, but more than likely, these have been developed by legal counsel, insurance, you know, or contracts department, whatever that may be. But other areas that are generally included are questions, right? How questions are accepted, the timeframes, the formats, the submittal instructions. You know, we see sometimes submittal instructions that are like 2 pages long, and sometimes they're very short. So, you know, whatever fits the scenario. And then we really get into some of the areas that we almost have no control over at all, with contract requirements and the forms, insurance requirements, legal language, clauses and requirements, and sample contracts. So the interesting thing here, and then my second asterisk here, is this side, the right side, can create issues or potential negotiations, again, because you may have parts in these requests and these contracts that are put together by people that have no idea what you do on a day-to-day basis, right? They just know what they want in a contract or what should be in the contract. And so some of us, even, you know, the contractors and you all, kind of get caught in the middle trying to figure out how is this going to work out. So those are always fun, but they can also lead to good conversations as well. So what else do we include? The proposal requirements. So we're getting a little bit more specific. What are commonly in requests for proposals or contracts in our realm? Well, you would ask for the firm overview, past projects and experience, right? What have they done before? How is it related to what we're asking? You would ask for credentials and qualifications. And again, this should be specific to what you are asking the individuals to propose for. So, if it's pruning and removal related, you may ask for, safety credentials, qualifications, certified arborist, whatever that may be. More on the consulting side, maybe tree risk assessment, a registered consulting arborist. So those are things that you would want to include or are generally included. And then also the project approach, again, very, very scope specific as far as what industry standards, ANSI standards, best management practices that you may want them to abide by. And this is an area where you can, my own opinion, add some language to try to keep everyone on the same playing field. So when you're looking at these proposals, you're kind of comparing apples to apples because everyone's following the same thing. And then a lot of times the proposed schedule, you're going to ask them how soon can you have the project put together, finished, completed, their capacity, when could they get it done, references, and similar projects. My last one here is exemption. So this is a little bit of a unique one. I don't know how many of you have this item included in your requests. It's one we see sometimes, but not all the time. From the contractor perspective, I like it because it gives the ability to kind of point out, like, hey, if there are portions of this contractor request that you have an issue or cause a concern or maybe not be able to meet, you can list those out and give a little bit more detail and maybe put in there how you would approach it. So again, to me, that's more information to help the conversation and your reviews internal when you're looking at these proposals. But that's another good one that may or may not be included. So now we're getting to the scope of work, and this is really where our expert panel are going to kick in and add more detail. But as we all know, there's lots and lots and lots of things that can be done in the urban forest and with our trees, with our programs. So the scope of work is important. It could be more tree-based, whether it's pruning requests or removal, stump grinding, stump removal, or just down to just tree planting. We do tree risk assessments, storm response, on-call services, city arborist, project arborist, right? Whether you're asking for someone literally to be on call to assist when needed or so many hours a week, whatever that may be. Tree inventories are a big one. And then we get into, kind of even more on the consulting side, whether, we're asking for iTree and ecosystem services to be quantified, UTC assessments, tree ordinances, creating them and reviewing and revising them, full-scale urban forest management plans, master plans, could include GIS, and even specification language and grant writing, right? So you may put out a contract request for someone to write specification language for you to add in future contracts or to help you create the initial contract. So, the scope of work that you all have to deal with is very, very vast. And luckily, we have some experts that are going to be able to touch on several of these today. So getting to that, our expert panel. Leslie hit on this. We have Walt Galt, the Urban Forestry Program Coordinator and City Arborist for San Luis Obispo. Jennifer Kipp, the Manager, Division of Urban Forestry for the City of Cleveland. And Thomas Brady, Director of Public Works from Watertown, Massachusetts. And I wish I could tell you that this was mapped out and we knew from the beginning we wanted to go from Boston to California and all spaces in between. I wish I could say that I was that smart and could foresee that far, but luckily that's how it worked out, and really appreciate everyone, all of our experts joining. I think it's great. We literally are from coast to coast for today. And what our panel is going to be touching on, Walt's going to be talking in the realm of project arborists, contract language, specifications. Jennifer is going to be honing in more on tree planting specifications, project arborists, maybe a little bit more as well. And Thomas is going to come at from more the operational and implementation and issue sides, right? Really where the rubber hits the road, and hopefully some storm response information as well. So I am excited to listen to everyone today and learn as much as you all. And Leslie, I think I am going to turn it back over to you.
Great. Well, and here, I keep turning it over. I think we're going over to Walt next. Walt, are you ready to share your screen?
Yes, stand by. All right, and then we're gonna go from the beginning, and then,
Looks good.
all right, is that looking good?
Yes.
Okay. My name's Walt Galt. I work for a small town on the central coast of California called San Luis Obispo. We're a small town, college town, and characteristics like that give specificity to what we're looking for. For example, we need to plant trees that are large enough in our downtown corridor that can sustain a 200 plus pound inebriated male late at night. That goes into a contract, making sure you get the right tree species and size that can deal with specific requirements in your community. We also have a community that's not designed for trees, and this means that we're going to have a lot of high impacts to our trees. This is a classic snapshot of maybe one of our best parkways. You can see it's narrower than the Jeep parked there. And I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to go to Chicago in November, and I was so impressed with their parkways. And you can see that it's wider than the car. And that just says a lot for getting specific when it comes to how to protect trees, how to plant trees, depending on where you're at in the country. I have a favorite quote from UC Extension researcher Igor Lacan. He said that the demands placed on trees have never been greater, and the opportunities in space we give them to perform have never been smaller. And that leads us to getting specific, spelling out what it is we're looking for. And so I'm going to be talking about what makes good contract language. And I work in community development in the planning division. And so I review a lot of building permits, major development plans, and my contract language is in completeness comments, asking for complete information and then providing conditions of approval. How do you get trees to survive in the hands of non-arborists? And a key aspect of that is building in accountability that's not you. As a municipal arborist, my job is to evaluate information, not be going out site to site and verifying that tree protection is in place. You need somebody doing that for you, and that's often a project arborist. In your contract language, you want to be clear and specific, but you also want to be flexible because, as we know, on the job, things come up, things change, and you don't want to be locked into requiring somebody to perform a task that is no longer applicable. I'm a big fan of the ISA BMPs. This image is pulled from managing trees during site development and construction. If you don't have it, get it. It's 20 bucks. And there's a lot of really sweet diagrams that you can share with the folks you're working with to get on the same page about what you're talking about. But whether you're talking about a construction plan or a contract for pruning, the phases of what information you need, when you're getting it, and what needs to happen over the course of the project are kind of the same. When is the traffic control going up on a major artery? When is it coming down? Who's monitoring it? Same as a tree protection zone. It's a good framework for keeping track of all the information that you want to make sure you're tracking. When I provide completeness comments to landscapers, architects, developers, I'm always looking for more information. And oftentimes the drip line of the tree on a plans is not really indicative of the critical root zone. And you want to have arborist reports, and you want to have a project arborist who's accountable to you or whoever's the reporting body. They should be reporting that the tree protection plan is in place, and their contact info should be available on the plans. That's your accountability measure for keeping track of things, because I don't know about you guys, but we have limited staff and I can't keep track of everything. I need somebody reporting to me so that I know that what we agreed upon is actually happening. And the project arborist can be really useful in doing that. You know, when it comes to contractors, again, as Nick said, it's about getting specific. What is your goal? What are the needs of your community? If you're doing a maintenance prune, what's the species? What's the age of the tree? What's the current condition? If you're in California, we have a new fun element called the CAL FIRE high severity maps that are going to be influencing the shape of our urban forest and its maintenance. You want to be able to follow up with the contractor. You want to be specific, but you want to be flexible. And you need somebody who can interpret their work and ask them to go back and do it again if your needs aren't being met. You know, it's getting a certified arborist on everything is just going to, I think, to work in our favor. You want a certified arborist all the way through the project, whether it's tree pruning, root pruning, installing tree protection zones, or sourcing the trees. You know, there's so many things that have to go right in the lifespan of a tree, and then especially a new tree, whether it's having a quality nursery stock to a quality transplanting day, getting it staked properly. There's all these details that require somebody monitoring all the way through, and you need to have a professional on site for that project doing it to ensure success. Conditions of approval, specific but flexible. You know, these are the items that you want to be adhered to. You want trees to survive, and somebody needs to be able to evaluate the degree of how well that tree is surviving. You know, was the root ball dry when it got planted and it was on a hot day in the summer and it was left out in the sun and now it's in transplant shock? You know, is there a way to come back and hold the project accountable? If you can't find the tree species, are you locked into one tree species, or is there a way to get out of that and provide flexibility for that quality nursery stock that's available? And then I like to ask for photographic evidence of tree protection zones and new tree plantings, so I don't have to follow up. Maybe the thing I wish I should say the most is remove the nursery stake. It doesn't matter if I have a city engineering plan that specifies how to plant trees. If I don't tell them to remove the nursery stake, it won't get removed. So sometimes it's just the little details that you realize what people are really paying attention to. And, you know, I would encourage you to have a template of this information that you can throw at each project, because each one's going to be different and you're going to be massaging it and learning, and it's always changing. And so if you can keep all that information together, you can just keep refining it each time you have to do it. I'm going to close with the Migratory Bird Treaty Act of 1972. This is a good condition to keep around whenever you're working with trees. It only pertains to removals, but I've found that it will save you headache if you use it for tree trimming as well. You see the skirt of a Mexican fan palm, you know, in February, March, that's full of bird nests. And some trees, it may be better to prune at certain times of the year. Again, it's that specificity of what details you need to be paying attention to. And we can dive into templates and completeness comments and conditions of approval in the breakout a little further. But that's all I have. And so I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to Jennifer. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Mo.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm gonna share my screen. I'm very excited to be with all of you today and have this opportunity. I think it's the first time I'm presenting to an audience that I cannot see. So we'll see how I do here.
You're gonna do great.
All right, thanks for the vote of confidence. I very much appreciate it. So I'm gonna speak a little bit more on some kind of case studies and level 101, right? This is a level 101. So how did we get to do the things and be successful with using project arborists in the city of Cleveland. The vision didn't show up. Oh, there it is. So the reason I brought up our vision is that everything that we do should tie to our vision, should connect to our vision and our mission. Our vision is where we want to go. Our mission is what we want to do. So I encourage, all forestry programs to have both a mission and a vision. So conservation is at the beginning of this statement. So now, if there was audio, I would hear gasps. So, how is this happening? This is not conservation. Apologies. This is what happens, like contracting a project arborist equals tree preservation. I've been with the city for almost 12 years. It'll be 12 years in September. So this is kind of the, 2014, this is what I walked into. This is what was happening. We just had the engineers wrote contract specifications for putting in new sidewalks without any regard to the tree. And the one on the left is our gas company here in Cleveland, Ohio. And the interesting, oh man, I forgot to start the timer. All right.
You're okay, Jennifer. I'll help.
I appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay. So the city was wanting new sidewalks, and so they told the gas company that they had to put all of their gas lines under the sidewalks so that we could get some new sidewalks out of it. Cleveland is probably the second poorest big city in the US. So we have to make some difficult choices. So I went out and started seeing these happening and, seeing roots just getting completely mutilated. And the first thing I did back in 2014 was to document. Like, I know, it's incredibly important. And, Nick and Walt spoke to this document the damage. And then what is the cost to mitigate the risk? I couldn't, as the city arborist, see that damaged, those damaged buttress roots and, walk away and not do anything. So it was creating like a higher cost in urban forestry, even though maybe in the engineering team and construction team, they were reducing their costs. So I presented this data to the engineering construction colleagues. Stick to the facts. That was really important for me because I've learned in my 12 years with the city is that once you start editorializing and going through all these anecdotes and speak with passion, sometimes you get shut down because you're too passionate or you're a tree hugger. And so it was very important to just stick to the facts. Be patient and allow for internal discussion once you present the information, and then continue to follow up. That's one of the big, that's something that I do constantly is follow up. And then it's kind of an art to figure out how often and with whom. And then we scheduled a meeting to brainstorm the solutions. What are how can we retain trees during sidewalk construction? Number one, add a project arborist to the sidewalk, which was called our concrete requirements contract. We need all of urban forestry's contract language and specifications to be in every construction contract in the city because they're doing work where our trees live in the right of way. We modified construction methods. We explored alternate sidewalk materials, porous flexible pavement. And then I had to basically memorize the ProWag guidelines, which stands for Public Right-of-Way Accessibility Guidelines, because we want to make sure that our sidewalks are still safeable and walkable for all peoples of all abilities. And then I had to know what are the current ordinances on the books right now pertaining to sidewalks. Is there a minimum width, a maximum width? So we were able to get a project arborist on the sidewalk, all of the sidewalk construction projects. And there he is. I didn't realize I cut his face up on the left there, but he came in and look at what a dilemma he has. You could see he's holding his hand up to his chin, really thinking about this. How do we retain, this probably 48-inch oak tree on a maybe 6-7 foot wide planting area there and still get what we need in terms of accessibility for the sidewalk? So you could see how those are decisions that are being made in the field. And the project arborist is an extension of our team in Division of Forestry. They are our extra set of eyes out in the field. And like somebody else said, every construction project has a construction inspector, making sure that all the other elements, all the other infrastructure is being done correctly and respected. That's the role of the project arborist here in the city of Cleveland. We also explored this sidewalk, a bridge over troubled routes. That was my attempt at being funny. But yeah, we, instead of, the typical go in and figure out which ones you can root prune, we just raised the sidewalk. We had enough linear footage to go over the roots. Other projects that the project arborist are on are the gas and water main projects, all our utilities. So here's a picture of a site where they were putting in a water main, and you could see the whole entire median is basically protected with, and then how would they know how to protect these trees? Because we put tree protection specifications in those contracts. So what we had to do is make sure we understood what is the contract? What is the Division of Water tasked with doing? What is Dominion Energy tasked with doing? Who's doing the work? We had to understand what budget and what are the timelines? What's the 2025, 2026 project schedule? And then from that information, we were able to clearly define the roles and responsibilities of the project arborist on that project. And then also just reiterating, BMPs and ANSI standards are your friend, probably your best friend. So no one can argue. Well, they'll try, but they won't win. But BMPs, it's right there. ANSI standards, it's right there in black and white. And the engineers actually like to see those standards because they think, oh, you guys are tree people. What standards do you have? Because they have books and books. So it also helps kind of get the engineers on your side too. And then finally, we hold, a pre-construction meeting with all the project staff, the boots on the ground, the people that are reporting to the job site, all the way up to the project manager, and explain why. Why are we protecting these trees? Why does it matter? What do we want you to look out for? The project arborist, you need to make sure these fences stay intact through the course of the project. And it always helps to have robust tree ordinances. In the city of Cleveland, we have some pretty good ordinances on the books with respect to any damage that's done to our trees. We can fine $1,000 per area of damage. So that would be if a branch is damaged, $1,000. If they nick the trunk, $1,000. If they damage the roots, another $1,000. I'm looking at my time. I think I'm getting close.
About 3 more minutes, Jennifer. 3 minutes.
I appreciate that so much. All right, we were very, very fortunate enough to be a recipient of some grant dollars last year, and so this was our first massive RFP that we wrote for the city of Cleveland to get a tree and planting site inventory, which we have not had since, I want to say, almost 40 years ago. Scope of services, again, reiterating what Nick said and what Walt said, details make the difference. And as far as inventories, we know there are standards for inventory data collection, but I also want to note that every city is different. The city's needs are different. Maybe the crews are different. Maybe the training of the crews is different. So it's also really important to make sure you know what you need for your city. And then general requirements in our RFP was, how are they going to go collect the data in the field? What are the credentials and expertise of the team they're bringing to the project? For us, we need to know if there's alignment with our new database systems and legacy systems. We built in quality assurance, quality control measures, and a component on communication and engagement. And then the schedule and deliverables, we went with a design, initial, and then final acceptance. And then lastly, of course, you're always going to have that standard language that needs to be added, from the law department and talking with also your finance team. And then I think my time's almost up. So we can talk more about all these things in the breakout rooms. Thanks so much for listening. And I'm going to stop sharing and take us back.
Ready to go, Tom?
Good afternoon, everyone. I am ready to go. So I'm on the East Coast. I'm the New Englander. I'm the Yankee. So a couple general observations from my previous presenters. I think they nailed so many important points, and I hope you all already took a bit away in terms of details, in terms of making sure your contract is specific, but also has that balance of flexibility. I'd like to talk about where the rubber meets the road and how we take those contract documents, we take those contract specs, and we bring it forward. My career has had an interesting arc. I've been in this business for 30 years, the business of serving the public. For much of that time, I was in a community known as, it's called Brookline, Massachusetts. It's just outside Boston. It has the densest canopy in Massachusetts. It has very large trees, and it presents some interesting situations. But as I looked at managing the resource that I was entrusted with, that dates from the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, I'm a public works director. Most of what I'm surrounded by in the office I'm in now and my staff are constructed materials, pipes, hydrants, things like that. All of us who are here share a common interest, and many of us share a common passion for managing a resource that is a living, breathing organism. It has cells, tissues, pathways. It lives, it breathes, it dies. It's an entirely different set of references. So when you're writing your contract documents, you need to look at that. When I think back to my earlier career, I had a professor who used to say, what's clear to you is clear to you. So, and I said, geez, why is he saying that? And then it occurred to me as I move forward. I think what my colleague from Cleveland brings forth is something that I've preached for years. Collaborative efforts, talking with folks, seeing what's going on. You need to understand what the goals are for the people you're working beside, the people you're sharing this public space with, or the people you're sharing a college campus with, if they're doing infrastructure planning for that, when you're writing your specifications. When you have your pruning specification, it works great for a community that is 4 square miles. Does it work as effectively for a community that has 400 square miles? When you're doing your planting specifications, do you want to have a distance requirement in there in terms of where the material can come from? We're having a lot of material in New England, believe it or not, be shipped across the country from Oregon. So we've now started to look at language in our contracts for requirements in transport and how it's transported over. It needs to be the same hardiness zone, for example. I'm not quite so concerned where it comes from, because it's an ever-changing world, but I'm concerned about the hardiness zone and if that matches up. When you look at your pruning contracts, do you have those certified personnel in place? One of the questions I tend to get a lot is, but this tree presents a risk, and how can you guarantee me there will not be risk? And my response is, living with trees is living with risk. My job for decades is with trees, I've told folks, is I'm a risk mitigation manager. That's what I do. I prune it. On occasionally, I will cable it. I will brace it. I will look at it. But all that needs to be done on my contracts in accordance with national industry standards, with certified personnel, that's clearly tracked who's doing the work, when they're doing the work, and why they're doing work, and if they note any defects. And you wonder sometimes, why is that quite so important? And when does that come into play? And let me give you a specific example, if I can, for a minute, just to put things in context. So this is a shot of a vehicle that was driving down Beacon Street in Brookline, coming home from the airport at 4 o'clock in the morning. This is the same road that carries the Boston Marathon. This is a tree that I've actively managed for 30 years. And if you look up in the sky, it's starting to brighten up, but there's no storm clouds. There's no big debris. There's no big gray clouds, excuse me. The tree came over and landed on the center post of the car exactly as I was just driving underneath it. What are the questions that come to mind here from a contracting point of view? I have contracted services in Brookline for decades. The questions come from us is, there visually as an arborist, when I went out and responded to this, there were no mushrooms at the base. There's no recent sidewalk construction that would have disrupted the roots. The canopy was full and had no chlorotic conditions. There were no external indicators of decay on the tree whatsoever. I had staff who had pruned the tree consistently over the past previous few years. We had records going back 12 years of when it was pruned, the personnel that was doing that work and how it happened, and what standards we used. They not surprisingly came to us and initially said, we think that you owe us some funds here for emotional distress and such things. And fortunately, no one was injured. But when it was interesting, we went back and we pulled out our contract language, which told them how we did things in accordance with national standards, how our staff was trained, how we tracked our information. And all of that was in place and was followed. Then there was no further litigation. There was no further dialogue on this matter. So it is critically important that you do that. And that is in terms of the planting piece and the pruning piece, those are very important. When you progress, we are in a changing world. And I currently am of the belief that among the impacts we're going to see are more extremes, which means more storms with more high winds, more high rain events, more high snow events, and also more drought conditions. All are going to be stressors on our trees. But I need to have a contract in place that can ramp up to go from 4 crews to 40 crews. I need to be able to respond to hundreds of incidents across my communities. And then in your contract, when you have to do that, what is your management structure? How do you prioritize those calls? Who prioritizes those calls? And again, there's national standards for that, the National Incident Management System and the ICS system and things such as that. So all these different pieces and parts I've learned along the way from colleagues, from workshops such as this, from others, and sometimes just from the School of Hard Knocks, where you find that balance of specificity and flexibility. But one thing that, in my opinion, you cannot deviate from, whether or not you're 4 square miles or 400 square miles, is you need to have a structure, you need to have a framework, you need to follow that. These contracts typically run for 1 to 3 to 5 years sometimes. So each time they roll over, use that opportunity to think, I do this a little bit differently this time. Or I heard from Joe or Sue or Bill or John that they're doing things a little bit differently, and I think I want to do that. So I thank you all for being here today to have this dialogue. I'm looking forward to the breakout sessions as well. It's a great group of people that we have here to speak with you today, and always happy to share information and knowledge. And I thank you all for your time today.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate your insights there. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Walt, and thank you, Nick. We have heard loud and clear from our members that you want more time to learn from each other. You are all dealing with these things. You've got experiences of your own. You have your own challenges and triumphs with this. And so this is our effort to bring to you together in breakout rooms to hear from one another and ask each other questions. So we have 4 breakout rooms set up. I have put one of our speakers into each of the rooms. There is a moderator in all those rooms. Nick, except for yours, we couldn't get the moderator assigned, but really that was just to help keep conversation flowing. So Carla is going to be putting some prompting questions into the chat just for sake if you need them to help keep conversation going. If you don't, no problem. Let that conversation go where it needs to. Ask each other, ask our experts the questions you need to help your RFPs be the most successful in your contract language. So we're going to keep these open for about 20 minutes. Then we'll come back for Q&A. I saw a couple of questions in the chat already. I see, Jason, you have your hand up. So hopefully you get your questions answered in the chat. And if not, we'll bring them back to the Q&A. And I'll put an announcement when we're getting ready to close the rooms. So I think we're all set up. Speakers, you ready to go?
Ready.
Okay. I'm going to open the rooms and you should be whisked away here. Hey, everybody, you're getting whisked back here. I'm always the person who closes the rooms and has to feel really bad that we have cut off really good conversation. So, but wanted to come back for some Q&A. I hope that stimulated some conversation for you all and you got some good feedback. I'm going to keep trying to mute people as they're coming in. As you come in, start muting yourself. And our speakers would love to have you back for some Q&A here. And if people have some questions, please put them in the chat, things that stimulated in your breakout groups. We'd love to hear it. So I think we're all back here now. And Jennifer, are you still with us? Can I see you?
I am here.
You might have answered this in your breakout room. Before we went over there, we had a question about the sidewalk bridges. And let me get over there. And if they, I think it's probably about heaving during the freeze and thaw cycle.
Yeah, that one didn't come up in our breakout. So yeah, there was a lot of, I think we changed the base material and put, obviously kind of intermingled it with the roots, and then did the Tom Smiley recommendation, right? Everybody knows that one, right? So, and that picture it's actually been 6 years now. So it's about time for me to go back and take a look at what's going on over there. But like, I'm kind of the mindset, like, hey, if we got 5 or 6 more years out of these trees, I'll take it, right? Like, what's the cost benefit analysis, So, but
Yeah.
thanks for bringing that up, Leslie.
I'm seeing I would love a future topic on one of these webinars to be about infrastructure solution that Jennifer is discussing. Great, thank you. Every single learning series we've done has been somebody has mentioned something to us and we're like, we need to do a learning series on it to help get more specific on the issues you're dealing with. So keep sharing them with us. Let us know what you're seeking help on. You still have your access to your microphone. So if you want to raise your hand and share anything on your perspective on sidewalk bridges, please raise your hand and then you can come off mute. I did see as we're doing that, please keep dropping questions into the chat, things that might have come up during your work breakout groups. Before we left though, I did see a item in the Q&A. Are Jim Urban, for any of our speakers or anybody, are Jim Urban and Ed Gilman's planting specs commonly used in municipal planting projects? And there's a link there. Jennifer,
My answer to
Tom,
that,
Walt?
my answer to that one is no. I don't go to specific individuals. I tend to use recommendations from agencies such as ISA, just because I'm hypersensitive to the municipal issue of going to a specific sole source for information. So in my other life as a private arborist, I think they're great, but I'm not in my contracts. I won't speak to a specific talk or published article. I will reference specifications adopted by a national agency. Sometimes it's ISA. In the past, I've used U.S. Forest Service in fairness. So, but I tend to stay away from specific individuals or universities.
Okay. I see another question here with 2 heart emojis, so it must mean people are interested in this one. Does anyone anticipate adding the new prescriptive pruning qualification standards into future contracts? Oh, big nod from Jennifer. Go ahead.
Yes.
Just yes. End of story.
Yes. I mean, right, because it's you can have really excellent language in your contract, and they can even be certified arborists required to do the work, but sometimes you still don't get the quality cuts that you need. So it's just maybe an extra layer of, reassurance that we're going to get good quality.
And this is why it's good to have a panel. So for those of us who are really old, so remember the class 1, 2, and 3 pruning standards. So, and I still use not the class 1, 2, and 3, but the descriptive language that was associated with class 1, 2, and 3 in our work. So, and then we require a contractor before they're awarded to come in and do a couple, we'll call them sample trees. You want to bid on my $500,000 contract, then you're going to give me a crew for half a day to demonstrate what they can do. And then the other thing that we do is we'll demonstrate that we require either the arborist who oversaw that work, or if you're small enough, you can say you can require the same crew every day. So, so that's the way we've handled it a little bit. So.
Any other questions from our group? Anything that came up bubbled up during your conversation? Be curious to hear. Or from our panelists, anything that you guys were chatting about in your breakout groups that surprised you, or you thought maybe the whole group would like to hear?
I think one thing that I would just add with the group that we touched on briefly in our group is it falls into the school of hard knocks. Make sure your contracts specific, and this I'm speaking specifically to the catastrophic events that we never want to have happen, the straight line of winds, the tornadoes, the hurricanes, the blizzards. You need to have language in your contract that allows you to effectively provide state and federal agencies with the information to ensure you get disbursement. I can tell you that if you go to FEMA or another federal agency and say, I brought in 20 crews for 20 days to respond to a Cat 5, they cleaned my community and they worked hard, and please give me $600,000, you will get laughed out of the room. You need to have every location, every action, and every crew. So how we do that is my contract says they need to give me every location, every work item, and every crew on a daily basis, or they don't get paid. So it's a normal work procedure. So when I scale up to 40 crews, when you have a big event, so I simply have 40 crews filling out the same form. And it says in my contract that if I don't get those forms turned in and completely turned in, they don't get paid. So, and you only have to use that once, and then they pay attention. So, because as I say to my higher ups, tree crews are not just sitting around waiting to do something. So when we have a big event, they aren't falling from the sky. I'm pulling them from Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Georgia, Florida, Canada, from all over the place. And if I have one simple one-page form, I keep it very basic. That's a written form, no tablet, no computer, none of that jazz. It's a simple written form that lists their location, so what they did and who was there. It allows me to get every penny back in reimbursement.
We had a question. Is this a form you created of a FEMA form?
We built it off the information that FEMA requested. It's a great question that FEMA requested, but I found the FEMA form to be amazingly complex that you want to hand someone at 2 o'clock in the morning when the wind is blowing 50 miles an hour and they're working their way down the street to open up your community. So we greatly simplified it, but hit the points that FEMA needs. And then the last piece we did is 1,000 years ago, we bought disposable cameras and we had the pictures, and you get something to particularly that is a photograph worthy event, take a photo. So when we tagged it to the address. Now with today's phones, they just do it with phones and they send us photos. So it documents what they did, how they did it, who did it, and it meets the FEMA requirements.
Thanks, Tom. I'm seeing some good chat here. Jennifer, you dropped a question in about soil cells and then some in downtown areas and people communicating back on that. Don't know if anyone else has some comments on that, but definitely check out the chat as you're seeing that. If you're curious about soil cells, it sounds like part of that conversation we should have about some infrastructure solutions. So we'll make sure to come back to that at a later date.
I would put a plug in for sand-based structural soils. We've had tremendously good luck with them. Someone asked earlier about frost heaving and such things. Virtually no frost heaving with them.
Okay.
And they hold up. We've brought lots of heavy equipment up across them, and the trees are thriving. We've been watching them now for 18 years, and they're doing great. So that's the direction we're going in.
How do you retain nutrients in the soil?
It's a specification that was developed by a large landscape architecture firm here when we did Beacon Street 20 years ago. It's a good mix. Seems a perfect mix between the sand, the silt, and the organics. They seem to have got the percentage rights, because when they peel back the sidewalks after 18 years to do a spot repair, man, they are just jammed up with roots, which is great, but they aren't lifting. So happy to send you the spec if you want it. I'd love to tell you that I was involved in writing the spec. Nope, it was handed to me, but it's worked really, really well, and now we use it for everything.
That's great to know.
Well, sounds like some great conversations in the breakout rooms. Really appreciate everybody. These were new for us. Our theme this year for our annual conference is what works and what doesn't in urban forestry. And we're trying some new things out. And so this was a new part for our webinars. I'm going to launch a poll right now. I'm just curious if you guys liked those breakout rooms. So that poll is live, and curious if you liked that structure. If you didn't, love to hear your feedback, and we can keep bringing those on, or just kind of keep them to the traditional webinar format, which, usually an hour time frame. And so as we're going, Carla, could you drop the CEU form in the chat? If you're seeking ISA CEU forms, that should be coming into the chat very shortly. And we'll follow up by email as well. And if For those who were on the whole time, they'll be able to access the CEU form. There it is now, approved for 1.5 CEUs. Please fill that out and put in your ISA information, and we will submit those on your behalf. So as we're coming to a close here, you can tell you're with your triple here. These are the people who know and understand the work you do every day. That's the power of this association, is to bring you together and help you feel more confident in the work you're doing every single day. And we're going to keep doing that for you through these webinars, our Career Compass series at MFI, at our annual conference. Again, it's all for you to make sure you can feel the most confident in your tree making decisions every single day. So we'll come to a close here. We'll wrap it up. We'll follow up with an email with the recording, and then I'm sure our speakers will be willing to share their contact information if you would like to reach out to them. Hope to see you at a future webinar, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.